I make $57,440 a year driving a truck out of Florida. And my kids forgot my voice. That sounds dramatic until you hear it come out of a 9-year-old's mouth, like it's a normal thing to say. I called home from a rest area and my daughter goes, "Mom, who is this?" And my wife had to whisper my name to her. I sat there with my phone in my hand and stared at the steering wheel like it had an answer. You can be proud that you provide and still feel like you're slowly turning into a stranger in your own house. That's the part nobody puts on a recruiting flyer.
When you told me that, I couldn't shake it. Because 57 grand sounds like a real living to a lot of people, especially in a state where folks are trying to hold on by their fingernails. And yet you're saying the cost wasn't just money or sleep. It was something way more personal. Before we go anywhere, what was the exact moment you realized, oh my God, they don't know me the way they used to?
It was a Tuesday night. But on the road, Tuesday doesn't feel like anything. It's just another night. I was up in Georgia, parked behind a line of other trucks, and the air smelled like diesel and hot brakes, and that fried chicken smell every truck stop has. I FaceTimed and my son, Mateo, he's 6. He kept hiding his face and giggling like I was a new person. Then my daughter Ava leaned in, squinted at the screen and said, "Say it again." I said, "Say what, baby?" She goes, "My name, the way you say it." And I realized she didn't just miss me. She was checking if I still sounded like Dad.
That is a punch to the chest. People hear truck driver, and they imagine this tough, unbothered guy behind the wheel, chewing sunflower seeds, living free. They don't picture a man parked on the side of the road, trying not to cry because his kid asked him to prove he's still her dad. Let's ground the basics so viewers can really understand your life. How old are you? Where in Florida do you live? And what does your schedule actually look like?
I'm 38. We live on the west side of Jacksonville. Not fancy, not terrible, just regular neighborhood. Kids on bikes, people grilling on Sundays. I've been driving 11 years total, with a little break in the middle when I tried to be normal, and it didn't work. My schedule is basically 10 to 12 days out, and then I come home for a reset. Sometimes it's 34 hours. Sometimes it's like 48 if I'm lucky, and dispatch doesn't get cute. And when I'm home, everyone expects you to instantly switch into husband mode, dad mode, fix the sink mode, birthday party mode. Like you didn't just live inside a rolling closet for almost 2 weeks. The paycheck looks steady, but the rhythm of your life is chaos.
And that 57,440, that's your gross for the year. What does it actually feel like in your bank account week to week? Because people hear Florida, no state income tax, and they think, all right, he's taking most of that home. But then there's reality. Deductions, insurance, the weeks where miles fall apart. What hits your account on an average week? A good week, I'll see like 900, maybe a little over that, hit the account. A bad week, where I sit at shippers, get stuck on a broken appointment, weather slows everything down, it can drop into the 700s and you feel it immediately. I've got health insurance coming out, a little bit into a 401k because I'm trying to pretend I'll have knees at 60, and then taxes, federal, Social Security, Medicare, all that. So yeah, Florida doesn't take state tax, but the rest of the world still takes their slice. And the thing with trucking is you can make the money on paper, but your hours don't match it. Some weeks you're basically working 2 jobs inside 1 job. It's not like you clock 40 and go home. Paint the day in the life for someone who's never been inside that. Not the highlight reel, the real day. When does it start? What are you doing? What's your body feel like by the time the sun goes down? It starts before the sun, almost always. You wake up in the sleeper, and for like 3 seconds you don't know where you are. Then you see the glow of a truck stop sign through the curtain and you remember, oh yeah, this again. I do a pre-trip in the dark with a flashlight in my teeth, checking tires, airlines, lights, doors. Because if something goes wrong later, it's on you. Then you're rolling while the world's still asleep, and it's peaceful for a minute. Just the hum and the road and whatever you're listening to. But then the clock starts chasing you. Because you've got that 14-hour window, and inside that you can only drive 11, and every minute you're not moving feels like someone's stealing from your paycheck. By night, your shoulders are tight from holding the wheel, your legs feel swollen, and your brain is tired in a way sleep doesn't fully fix. You crawl into the bunk and it's not rest. It's just preparing to do it again.
I want to slow down on what you just said. Every minute you're not moving feels like someone's stealing from your paycheck, because viewers might not realize how much of your day is unpaid waiting. What does waiting actually look like for you?
Waiting is sitting at a dock, staring at a red light, and you don't know if it'll be 20 minutes or 5 hours. Waiting is a guard shack where they treat you like you're a nuisance, like you're not the reason that place has product on the shelves. Waiting is being told, we're short-staffed, like that's your problem, while your clock burns. And the worst part is, you can't just relax, because you're listening for the thud of a forklift. You're watching for the green light. You're checking the app. You're doing math in your head. You end up eating trash because you can't leave the property. A cold sandwich, gas station coffee, whatever. Then you get rolling late, and now you're hunting parking at night, which is its own little nightmare. That's where the job starts feeling less like driving and more like survival logistics. So you're living in this constant math problem. And meanwhile at home, life is happening without you. When did you first notice the gap forming, not just in your schedule, but emotionally with your family?
It starts small, and that's what scares you, because small feels manageable. You miss a school event, but you tell yourself, next one. You miss a birthday dinner, but you bring a gift and you think the gift covers it. Then you start noticing your wife doesn't call as much. Not out of anger, just she's busy handling everything and she forgets you're a person she can lean on. And the kids, they stop running to the phone every time it rings. They still love you, but their lives adjust, like water filling a new shape. One day you come home and your daughter tells you a story, and she leaves you out of it, like you're a guest listening. That's when you feel it. You're not in the frame anymore.
A lot of guys will hear this and go, that's the job, man. That's the trade. And I get that. You chose this. But the title of this episode is brutal for a reason. So I want to ask it straight. Why did you stay in it as long as you did, if it was costing you that much at home?
Because the bills don't care about your feelings. Because I grew up watching my mom count groceries like it was a math test, and I swore my kids wouldn't feel that. Because when you're a provider, you start to believe your love is measured in paid invoices. Rent paid, lights on, car note handled. And because trucking has this weird pride thing, like you're doing something real, moving real stuff that people actually need. There's a part of me that likes being the guy who can handle it, who can drive through a storm and still deliver. But there's also fear. Fear that if I step off the road, I'm back at some warehouse job making less. And now I can't feed them, and I still miss them. So you stay, and you tell yourself the sacrifice has a purpose, until the purpose starts feeling hollow.
That pride is real. And it's complicated because trucking is essential. The country literally runs on it. But the human cost you're describing, it's heavy. Talk to me about your wife for a second. What's her name, and what did this job do to the two of you over time?
Her name's Liana. We've been together since we were broke kids, like dollar menu dates, laughing at nothing, thinking love would fix everything. At first, she was supportive. She'd pack me food. She'd write notes. She'd send pictures of the kids like I was deployed somewhere. Then reality set in. She's doing school drop-offs, doctor appointments, repairs, everything. And I'm on a phone call going, damn, that's crazy. Because what else can I do from 3 states away? We started fighting about stupid stuff because the real stuff was too big. Like, she'd be mad about me forgetting to take the trash out when I'm home. But the truth is, she was mad she feels like a single mom. And I'd get defensive because I'm tired. And I'd say things like, "You think I want to be out here?" Then you both go quiet. And quiet is more dangerous than yelling.
Quiet is when the relationship starts collecting rust. And you mentioned earlier, when you come home, everyone expects you to snap into family life instantly. What's that transition actually like for you, walking through the door after 10 days out?
It's weird, because you're excited, but you're also overstimulated. On the truck, it's mostly just you, the road, and noise you control. At home, it's cartoons, kids talking over each other, your wife asking about a bill, the dog barking, the neighbor's music, all at once. And you want to be present, you really do. But your brain is still scanning like you're driving, like you're waiting for something to go wrong. Sometimes my daughter will be telling me about school, and I catch myself looking past her, like I'm checking mirrors. Then I hate myself for it because she's right there, trying to hand me her little life. And I can feel her watching my face to see if I'm actually listening. That's the kind of moment that makes you realize you're bringing the road home with you.
You said something off mic that stuck with me. You called your truck a rolling closet. What did you mean by that?
Because that's what it is. It's like your whole life is folded into a space the size of a bathroom. Clothes stacked, a cooler, maybe a microwave, boots on the floor, paperwork everywhere. You sleep a foot away from your steering column. You brush your teeth with strangers walking by outside, headlights flashing through your curtains. You learn to be okay being uncomfortable. And then you forget what comfort even is. And you start realizing, this little box gets the best version of your attention. My truck gets me awake at 5 a.m. every time. My kids don't always get that. That messes with your head.
Let's talk about the body, because people underestimate that part too. BLS literally calls out trucking as having one of the highest rates of injuries and illnesses, and one of the highest fatality rates. When you're driving, do you think about that? The danger? Or do you have to shut it off to function?
You have to shut some of it off, or you'd never turn the key. But it's there, in the background, like a low, humming anxiety. Every time someone cuts in front of you and slams brakes, you picture the headline, and you picture your wife getting that phone call. Every time you're tired, you feel guilty, because you know tired driving is dangerous. But you also know if you don't move, you don't get paid. And the danger isn't just wrecks. It's your back, your knees, your blood pressure, your sleep. You're sitting for hours, then you jump out and crank a landing gear, wrestle a trailer door, climb in and out, sometimes in rain, sometimes in heat that feels like it's cooking you. I've had days where my hands shake from caffeine and stress, and I still have 3 hours to go. So yeah, you think about it. You just don't always say it out loud. Okay, take me to the first time you realized this wasn't just hard. It was changing who you were. Not a random bad day. The first crack. The first crack was when I missed Mateo's first real sentence. Not like a baby noise. I mean, a full sentence, clear as day. Liana sent a video, and he's holding a toy truck, of course. And he goes, "Daddy drives a big truck." And then he looks at the camera and says, "Daddy not here." And the way he said it, not angry, just factual. I watched that video like 20 times in my bunk, with headphones in, trying not to make noise because there were other drivers parked 10 feet away. And I felt proud and ashamed at the same time. Proud that he knows what I do. Ashamed that what I do is also why I'm not here. That's the crack. When your kid narrates your absence like it's part of the weather.
That's not a crack. That's a fault line. And you kept going. So I need to know, what story are you telling yourself in those moments to keep from quitting? You tell yourself you're building stability. You tell yourself this is temporary, even when it's been years. You tell yourself your kids will understand later, like understanding fixes missing you. And you tell yourself, at least I'm not out here doing something bad. I'm working. That's a big one. You cling to it like a life raft. But deep down, there's this other voice that goes, yeah, but your kids don't need a moral argument. They need you. And you drown that voice with miles. That's the truth.
Let's go back to that night in Georgia. The one where Ava asked you to say her name again. Walk me through it like a scene. Where exactly were you? What were you looking at? What did you do after the call ended? I was backed into a spot at a rest area off I-75, nose facing this line of pine trees. It was cold for Florida standards, like that sharp kind of cold that sneaks through your hoodie. I had the dash lights dimmed, and the cab smelled like that fake, new car air freshener that doesn't actually cover anything. When the call ended, the screen went dark, and my own face disappeared. And I hated that. Like even the phone didn't want to hold me. I put my forehead on the steering wheel and just sat there. No music, no engine. Just the tick of cooling metal and trucks rolling by like waves. Then I did this stupid thing. I opened my voice memo app, and I recorded myself saying, Ava, it's Daddy. I love you. Like I was trying to preserve proof that I existed. I listened to it back, and it sounded tired. And I thought, if my kid heard this without seeing me, would she even know it's me? That's when I started shaking.
That's the breaking point. Not a crash, not a blowout. A quiet, private moment where you realize you're disappearing. What happened when you got home after that run? Did you tell Liana what happened, or did you swallow it?
I swallowed it for like 2 days. Because when you get home, you don't want to walk in and drop a bomb. You want to be the fun dad, the happy husband. But it leaked out anyway. Ava was sitting at the kitchen table coloring, and I went to hug her from behind, and she stiffened, just a little. Not because she didn't love me, but because she wasn't used to my arms being there. That broke me more than the phone call. And that night, when the kids were asleep, I told Liana. She asked me to say her name again. Liana didn't even look surprised. She just stared at the wall and said, yeah, they're getting used to you being a voice. And then she started crying in this quiet way that made me feel like the worst person alive. Because I realized she's been carrying this grief alone, every single day. A lot of men don't know what to do with that kind of grief. So they turn it into anger, or they run back to work. What did you do with it? At first, I tried to fix it like a problem. I bought better headphones so I could call more. I tried doing bedtime FaceTimes every night, even if I was parked in some loud lot with reefer units screaming. But the truth is, calls don't replace presence. So then I started overcompensating when I was home. Big outings, trampoline parks, ice cream. Like I could cram 2 weeks of fatherhood into a weekend. And the kids liked it, but it didn't solve the deeper thing, which is trust. Kids trust rhythms. They trust you being there consistently. And trucking, it's the opposite of consistent. So I started feeling like I was always auditioning to be their dad. That's a humiliating feeling.
Auditioning to be their dad. That's one of the most painful things I've heard someone say about work. So here's the hard question. Do you resent the job, or do you resent yourself for choosing it? Both. I resent the job because it asks for everything and acts like you should be grateful for the privilege. And I resent myself because I signed up, and I keep signing up every time I climb back in the seat. There's days I'm like, man, I'm doing what I have to do, and I believe it. And there's days I'm like, no, you're hiding in the truck because it's simpler than being fully present at home. That's a nasty truth to admit. Because on the road, your responsibilities are clear. Deliver, don't crash, don't mess up your log. At home, responsibility is emotional, and emotional responsibility is harder than people think. So yeah, some of it is the industry, and some of it is me. That honesty is the whole point of this conversation. Because if you make it simple, good guy versus bad system, you lose the real story. Let's talk about the contradictions. What do you actually love about driving? Because I can hear it in you. There's a part that still lights up when you describe the road. I love the quiet in the morning. Like when the sun is coming up and the sky is this weird pink-orange and you're the only one awake, and it feels like you're watching the world boot up. I love that moment when you're rolling smooth, the trailer's steady, and you hit that flow where your hands and eyes and brain are just synced. I love seeing parts of the country my kids only know as dots on a map. And I love the pride of being competent. Like, I can back into a tight dock while some guy in a safety vest is yelling nonsense, and I still get it done. There's also this freedom illusion, like no boss standing over you. But it's an illusion, because your boss is the clock and the load and the app and the DOT. Still, those good moments are real. That's why it's hard to leave.
And that's where it gets dangerous, right? Because the job gives you these beautiful moments, and then it quietly takes your life in exchange. What's a normal bad day that people don't consider traumatic, but that stacks up over years?
A normal bad day is getting sent to a shipper that has you waiting 6 hours, and nobody apologizes. It's being tired but still having to find parking, and every lot is full, and you're watching your minutes tick down like a countdown to a ticket. It's showering at a truck stop where the floor is wet, and you're trying not to touch anything, and you still have to put on a clean shirt and act like a professional. It's eating dinner out of a plastic container in your lap while you watch other people walk in pairs. Couples, families, normal life. It's calling home and hearing your kids laughing in the background, and for a second you're happy, and then you remember you're not in that room. Those days aren't dramatic enough for anyone to feel sorry for you, but they grind you down. They make you smaller.
I want to bring in something for viewers, because a lot of people don't realize how regulated and how unforgiving this work is. You mentioned the clock, the hours of service rules, the 14-hour window, 11 driving, then 10 off. How does that feel in real life? Not as a rule, as a lived experience. It feels like you're living inside a cage you can't see. Like you can be stuck at a dock and your body is there, but your time is getting eaten and you can't pause it. Then when you finally get moving, you're driving with this little panic, because you're like, I'm losing daylight, I'm losing parking, I'm losing money. And it makes you do stupid things. Not illegal, but stupid. Like skipping a real meal, skipping a real walk, holding your pee too long, pushing through when your eyes feel dry. Then you stop and you're supposed to rest. But your brain is still racing because tomorrow's load isn't guaranteed, and home is far, and you're thinking about bills. So you lay there in the bunk, listening to reefer units and highway noise, and your body is exhausted, but your mind won't shut off. It's like being tired is part of the job description, and after years, you forget what a calm nervous system even feels like.
Let's get very real about money for a second. Because you're not making 200 grand out there. You're making a number a lot of Americans make while still being home for dinner. So where does that $57,000 actually go in your household? What are the expenses that hit the hardest? Rent is the big one. We're paying just under 2 grand for a 3-bedroom, and it's not some luxury place. It's just what it costs now to have space for 2 kids. Then there's car insurance, groceries, the kids' school stuff, and just random life. Shoes, birthdays, field trips, a tire blowing on the family car. My wife works part-time, but childcare is expensive, so it's a balancing act. And when I'm on the road, people think you're not spending money, but you are. Truck stop food, showers, little supplies, parking sometimes, replacing stuff that breaks in the cab, it adds up. So the paycheck looks okay until you realize it's supporting two separate lives, home life and road life. And both of them demand cash. Okay. I want to shift into something that surprised me when we talked. You said there are moments you feel jealous of your own wife. Explain that, because people will hear it and go, how could you be jealous of the person holding the house together? It's not jealousy like anger at her. It's like grief jealousy. She gets the mornings with them. She gets the little routines, the cereal choices, the hair brushing, the what did you dream about conversations. She gets to know their teachers, their friends, their moods. And I'm out here, and I get the highlight reel, a FaceTime, a picture, a quick recap. So sometimes I'll come home and I'll feel like the third wheel in my own family, because they have this whole world that functions without me. And then I feel guilty for feeling that, because she didn't ask for that responsibility. She got handed it. But the feeling is real. It's like watching people you love grow up through a window. You can see it, but you can't touch it.
That window image is brutal. Let's talk about fatherhood specifically, because the title is about your voice. What did it do to your identity as a dad, being away that much? It made me question if I was a dad or just a sponsor. Like I'm funding their life, but I'm not shaping it day to day. And I hate saying that because I love my kids more than anything. But love isn't the same as presence. There were times I'd come home and try to discipline them, and they'd look at me like, "Who are you to tell me that?" Not disrespectful, just confused, because mom is the one doing the daily parenting. So you start overcorrecting. You either become too strict because you're trying to assert your role, or you become the fun guy because you don't want to waste the little time you have. Either way, it's not balanced. And kids can feel imbalance. They don't have words for it, but they feel it. So it messes with your confidence. You start wondering if your kids will remember you as a person or as a job. Let's go deeper into the breaking point, because I don't think the Georgia call was the only one. There's usually a moment after that where life forces the issue. What was the moment that made you look at your future and feel scared?
It was my DOT physical. I went in thinking it's just a formality. Pee in a cup, read the eye chart, sign papers, move on. The nurse takes my blood pressure and she goes, "We're going to do that again." She did it 3 times. Then the doctor comes in and says, "Marcus, I'm not giving you a full card today." He gave me a short one and told me I had to get my blood pressure under control or I could lose my medical clearance. And it hit me like, I'm killing myself to provide, and if my body taps out, the whole thing collapses anyway. I pictured my kids not just forgetting my voice. I pictured them watching me get sick. And I thought, what am I doing? That was fear, real fear. Not emotional sadness, survival fear. That's the surprise people don't see coming. They think the risk is always accident on the highway. But the slow risk, the health risk, that's the quiet killer. What did that diagnosis do to your mindset the next time you climbed into the truck?
It made everything feel louder. Every energy drink felt like a bad decision. Every greasy meal felt like I was signing a contract against myself. And the stress got worse because now I'm anxious about being anxious. Like I'm watching my heart, watching my breathing, watching the clock, watching traffic. I started bringing a little blood pressure cuff in the truck like an old man, checking it at night. And that's when you feel the trap. Because the job schedule makes healthy habits hard. You can't just cook a nice meal. You can't just go to a gym. You're grabbing whatever you can, whenever you can, and telling yourself you'll do better later. But later never comes on the road. So I started feeling like I was borrowing time from my future. And while you're going through that, what's happening at home? Because I've seen this pattern with a lot of traveling jobs. The family reaches a point where they don't just miss you. They start building emotional walls to protect themselves. Did you feel that happening?
Yeah. Ava started acting older than she is, like little adult vibes. She'd stop telling me stuff because she didn't want to bother me, which is heartbreaking because kids should bother you. That's their right. Mateo started attaching harder to my wife. Like if she leaves the room, he panics. And my wife? She got sharper with me. Not cruel, just sharp, like she didn't have patience left for my excuses. There was one night she said, "I can't keep explaining you to them." And I knew exactly what she meant. She meant she's tired of covering for me. Tired of making me sound like a hero when I'm not there. Tired of telling them, "Daddy loves you," while they stare at the door. That's when I realized my absence wasn't neutral anymore. It was actively hurting them.
I'm going to push you a little here. Because you've described pain, guilt, health scares, and then you also said you love parts of the road. So help me understand this contradiction. Do you think you've been using trucking to avoid something at home? Not consciously, but in a real way. Yeah, I do. Home is beautiful, but home is also vulnerability. At home, you can't hide behind professional. You can't hide behind a schedule. Your kids see if you're stressed. Your wife sees if you're emotionally checked out. And I grew up in a house where men didn't talk about feelings. They just worked. So when things at home got hard, like real conversations, real conflict, part of me felt relief getting back in the truck, because the truck is simple. The truck doesn't ask me to open my heart. The truck asks me to drive. So yeah, I think I've been running from emotional work. And the saddest part is, I didn't even realize I was doing it until my daughter didn't recognize my voice. That's like the universe screaming, "Stop."
That's big. And it's not you being a villain. It's you being human, shaped by your upbringing and by a job that rewards distance. Let's talk about something else viewers don't understand. Loneliness. Not, "I'm bored." Real loneliness. What does loneliness look like inside a truck at night?
Loneliness looks like sitting in your driver's seat with the engine off, because you don't want to waste fuel, and it's quiet enough that you can hear other people's footsteps outside. It looks like scrolling your phone, not even reading anything, just trying to feel connected to the world. It looks like hearing families laugh in a restaurant through the window, and you're eating a microwaved burrito alone. It looks like having nobody to talk to about your day who actually understands it, because if you tell a non-trucker, they're like, "Well, at least you get to travel," and you want to scream. It also looks like getting weirdly attached to small things, like the same cashier at the same truck stop recognizing you, and that becoming a form of comfort. And then you feel pathetic for that comfort, because it's not your real life. That's loneliness. It's being surrounded by people and still feeling invisible.
I want to bring in another layer, because this is where viewers usually lean in. There's a cultural story that says, "A good dad provides." But you're saying, "Providing made me less present." So what's the guilt you carry? The one you don't say out loud at barbecues.
The guilt is that I've missed moments I can't get back, and I pretended money was a fair trade. The guilt is that sometimes I've been home and still not fully there, because my brain is fried, and I'm just sitting on the couch staring. The guilt is that my wife has cried alone, and I wasn't there to hold her, and I told myself it's okay because the rent's paid. The guilt is that my kids learned how to cope with my absence, and that coping might become their normal in relationships. Like, what if my daughter grows up and thinks love means distance and excuses? That terrifies me. And the one that hurts most is realizing my kids might not remember me as a presence. They might remember me as a pattern. Dad comes, Dad goes, Dad brings gifts, Dad leaves again. That's not what I wanted to be.
Okay. What happened recently that changed the stakes even more? Because you told me there was something that happened this month that made you feel like you're on a deadline. What is it?
Liana gave me an ultimatum. Not in a dramatic, screaming way. In a tired way, which is worse. She said, Ava starts middle school next year. I can't do that alone. I won't do that alone. And she told me she's not threatening divorce. She's saying she's reaching her limit. She said, I need you to choose us in a way that's not just money. And I sat there like, what do you even say? Because I want to choose them. But I also know the bills don't disappear just because you choose love. Still, hearing her say it with that calm voice, it made it real. Like, the relationship is not infinite. Her strength is not infinite. So now I'm on a deadline that has nothing to do with freight. It has to do with my family.
That's the reckoning. And it's the part people don't see until it's too late. The spouse gets tired, not angry. So let's get practical. What options do you actually have? Because people love to comment, just get a local job. What does local job mean in Jacksonville, in real numbers and real trade-offs?
Local usually means less money, first of all. It means more physical work sometimes, like food service, beverage, cases, pallets, hand truck. Your back becomes the payment plan. It can mean weird hours too. Nights, early mornings, still missing stuff, just in a different way. And the pay can be like 10, 15 grand less, depending on the company, especially when you're starting. But the upside is, you sleep in your own bed. You can go to your kid's school event even if it's short. You can be present for the daily stuff. And daily stuff is where relationships are made. So I'm looking at options. Port work, local tanker maybe, something stable. The hard part is swallowing my pride and admitting, I might have to make less to be more. That's a mental shift.
I might have to make less to be more. That's the whole episode right there. But I want to challenge something, gently. You said earlier you grew up watching your mom count groceries, and you promised your kids wouldn't feel that. Are you afraid that choosing presents might force your kids into stress you remember?
Yes, that's the fear under all of it. Because I don't want them to hear whispers about money, or see their mom stressed, or feel like they can't ask for things. And sometimes, I feel like I'm choosing between two kinds of pain. Pain of absence, or pain of scarcity. But what I'm learning, slowly, is absence is also a kind of scarcity. It's emotional scarcity. It's the scarcity of attention, of comfort, of being known. So even if I'm protecting them from financial stress, I might be starving them in another way. And I hate that I didn't see it clearly sooner. But I see it now. And seeing it makes it impossible to ignore.
That's earned wisdom. Not a motivational quote, something you can only say after living it. So what keeps you going right now, in the middle of this? Because you're still driving. You're still doing the job. What keeps you from collapsing under the weight of it?
Two things. One is my kids' faces when I walk in the door. Even when it's awkward at first, there's still this moment where they soften, and I remember. They're still mine. The other is this stubborn part of me that refuses to let this be the ending. Like I refuse to accept, my kids forgot my voice, as the final chapter. So I've been doing small things. Voice notes every night, even if it's 30 seconds. I record myself reading a page of their book, and I send it. I don't act like it's a replacement. I just treat it like a thread, like I'm keeping contact with the part of them that's growing while I'm gone. And honestly, therapy helped. That's a weird thing to say as a truck driver, but it's true. Talking to someone who doesn't judge you, who just helps you see patterns. It's been huge. Because I realized I've been living like a machine. And I'm not a machine. I'm a dad.
I respect you for saying that out loud. There's a lot of men listening who need permission to admit they're not okay. Let's do the younger self question, but make it real. If you could sit across from 26-year-old Marcus, newer to the road, hungry, proud, what would you tell him specifically? Not work-life balance. What would you actually say?
I'd tell him, stop thinking love is a paycheck. I'd tell him to pick one non-negotiable with his family, like, I will be home for this many days, and protect it like it's sacred. I'd tell him to not let dispatch or money shame him into missing everything, because the company will replace you fast, but your kids won't. I'd tell him to take his health seriously early, walk every day, drink water, don't live on caffeine and anger. And I'd tell him to learn how to talk to his wife, like really talk, not just logistics. Because the road teaches you to be independent, but marriage needs you to be connected. And if you don't practice connection, you lose it. That's what I'd say.
For the people watching who aren't truckers, what do you wish they understood? Because most of us only interact with trucking when we're annoyed a truck is in our lane. What do you want them to know about the human being behind that wheel? I want them to know there's a person in there trying to get home. Not just physically, emotionally. I want them to know when they cut off a truck, it's not just a truck. It's a dad or a mom or somebody's kid sitting 8 feet above the road trying to keep 40 tons under control. I want them to know a lot of drivers are exhausted, not because they're reckless, but because the system is built to squeeze time. And I want them to know we're not asking for worship. We're asking for basic respect. Let us merge. Give us space. Because when you don't, you're gambling with somebody's life for a few seconds. Also, remember that when you get a package in 2 days, somebody missed dinner for that. It doesn't mean don't buy stuff. It just means see the trade.
Okay, we're coming toward the end, and I want to bring it full circle. You started this by saying your kids forgot your voice. Where are you right now with that? Has anything changed? Or are you still living inside that fear? It's better, but it's not healed. The voice notes helped. Now Ava will send me one back sometimes, and she'll say, "Hi, Daddy," and she'll sound older than the last time I heard her. And it hurts, but it also makes me feel connected. Mateo started calling me Big Truck Daddy again, which is cute, but it also reminds me my identity to him is still tied to the job. And the fear is still there. The fear that if I keep doing this exact schedule, I'll wake up and my kids will be teenagers who tolerate me instead of needing me. So yeah, things changed in small ways. But the big change has to be structural. It has to be me choosing a different kind of work, or choosing a different way of living this work, because I don't want to be a visitor in my own family. I don't want my voice to be a mystery.
So what happens next? Give me the forward stakes, the real decision you're facing right now. Not someday, now.
I have an interview coming up for a local position. It's not glamorous. It's yard work and local runs. And I'll probably take a pay hit at first. But it would mean I'm home most nights. And I told Ava I'd go to her first middle school orientation. Not try. Not if dispatch lets me. I told her I'd be there. So the stakes are, do I keep chasing the money the way I've been and risk losing my family piece by piece? Or do I step into a smaller paycheck and a bigger life? And there's another stake, my health. I have to get my blood pressure down. So I'm making changes like a man who finally understands he's not invincible. Because I want to be here when my kids are grown. Not just as a memory, as a dad.
I'm going to say something to the audience, and then I want your final thought. A lot of people will hear your salary and think, that's not that high. Why sacrifice so much? But the deeper truth is, for millions of families, this is the math. A decent paycheck often comes attached to a life you don't get to live. And your story puts a human face on that trade. So Marcus, last question. If your kids listen to this episode 10 years from now, what do you hope they understand about you?
I hope they understand I loved them the whole time. Not in a distant, abstract way. In a daily ache kind of way. I hope they understand I wasn't choosing the road over them because I didn't care. I was choosing what I thought would keep them safe. But I also hope they see that I learned. That I didn't stay stuck. That when I realized the cost, I stopped pretending it was normal. And I hope they forgive me for the moments I missed. Not because I deserve forgiveness automatically, but because I'm trying to earn it now, in the choices I make next. Most of all, I hope they remember my voice as something warm, not something strange. I want my voice to feel like home to them. That's what I want.
That landed. And I want to tell you something, man. The fact that you can name it this clearly means you're already changing the pattern. You're not hiding behind, that's just how it is. You're looking straight at the trade you made, and you're deciding what matters more. For everyone watching, respect the people moving the world around you. And if you're someone chasing a paycheck so hard you're starting to disappear at home, let this be your mirror. Marcus, thank you for trusting us with this. I'm rooting for you, not as a truck driver, not as a worker, as a dad trying to come back into the frame.